there and welcome back to Building with the Boys. And I have issue 59 of Hachette's Build the Titanic. There's nothing new in this one. So in this one we are building more davits, more lifeboats. That's all we're doing. And we are adding these to, I said the stern, we're not quite at the stern yet. The stern of the ship is where these davits are going. The deck we're making is where these davits go and these lifeboats. We're still not attaching lifeboats to this yet. I don't know when that's going to happen. I would imagine at the end. I would imagine at the very end of this is when we're going to put these lifeboats on. I might be wrong. We might be doing those a lot sooner. But the only thing we're really fixed in place in this one are some davits. And we're nearly at the end of the davits. I know there are davits in 61. But certainly for this one, we're almost come to the end of everything we're doing in this section of decking. So it's a necessary evil. I know some people just didn't enjoy doing the davits. They are a little confusing about which one attaches to which and which way around they go. But take your time, take a good look at them, and it's not so tough once you kind of know where you're going. Again, with glue, it's a choice of preference. I mean, mine, if they fit and they fit snug, I'm not gluing because I like the option to be able to remove these and swap them out if I want to. If you want to glue, you go ahead and you glue. But if you see me not gluing, that's my personal choice. If you want to add some glue to it, you go ahead and you do it. It's your model, you do it your way. At the end of this one, we will be talking about the discovery of the Titanic wreckage and the efforts that were going to be made to salvage her from the bottom of the depths before they found her. So there were a lot of fairly wild ideas about how to salvage the Titanic from the depths, how to bring her to the surface in the 1950s, 60s and 70s. And not all of those were done with the best intention. There were some fairly nefarious intentions of bringing it to the surface. We'll talk about that at the end. If you haven't yet, please hit the like button if you're enjoying what you're seeing, and hit the subscribe button. It helps us massively. Join us on our journey where we're going all the way to the end on this one with issue 140, where we have our Titanic complete. And we'd love you along for the ride, we really would. Without further ado, let's get into this. Let's get these lifeboats built, which we've done a lot of times before, and let's get these davits done as well. Okay, so here's everything we get inside 59. Let's crack this one open. I'm not expecting any surprises here. As I said, this is all things we've done before. There's just so many of these that they keep coming back around. Here we go. Here's all our envelopes. Let's see what we've got. So this one we have... Yeah, there we go. Wow, there's a lot in that one. There's our davits and our pieces for the lifeboats there. Put those to one side. And this one here, I'm assuming we have boats. We do. There are 4 lifeboats that we're building. And this one, tarpaulins maybe? No. Davit parts we do have a couple of funnels as well to do on this one. Let's make sure everything is out there. There we go. So those are the davit bases, and those are funnel parts there. And then finally, this has got to be the tarps. It's got to be. I mean, it can't be anything else. And there are 4 tarps. So let's get our boats built. I mean, we know how to do this. So there's no real surprises in store here. It's a necessary evil. There's a lot of these. And as much as, I mean, it's hard when you want like new and exciting stuff every week. But the reality of it is, the uniformity is going to look amazing when it's all together. It's going to look incredible. So it's just what we do. It's just what we got to get through, you know. And then exciting things are going to be coming, because once we're done with this, I'm hoping we're going to be building a lot more hull, because it looks like that's where we're going. It looks like we've done with this section of the build, and we're moving on to hull. So as we know, one of those goes in there, and one of those goes in there. Now they are still saying not to glue these at this point. They are still saying push to fit these, which is, you know, that's fine. They keep saying do not use any glue. They're very firm about that. So that's the first one done. Let's get the second one over. Tarpaulin pops on. These do snap into place. I mean, these do hold. But again, I mean, these just secure that, so they're not going to go anywhere. So that one. And this one here. I've lost count of how many lifeboats we've made at this point, but I want to say this is these 4 will make it 12, I think. Might be wrong. But I believe that's where we are. I think we've now made 12 lifeboats. There's that one there. Might be less, might be 10, not sure. This one here, and then we made the cutters as well last month, which is a slightly smaller version of the lifeboat. Not happy with that. Let's get that one set on properly. That one in there. Another one in here. That's number 3 done. And then our 4th one here. There we go. With one of these and one more. So that's it. So those are our 4 lifeboats assembled. Simple enough. So I'm going to move these to one side. Now, the instructions say to bring up the vessel and start installing your funnels. I'm going to go against the instructions because whilst I have the luxury of a clear work surface, I'd rather assemble the davits now, then apply them to the deck after. So that's the way I'm going to do this. So it is a slight deviation from the way the magazine are asking to do it. But I'm just going to find that a lot easier. Now, if I'm right, there should be... I think these are all the same. I'm pretty sure these are all the same this time round, which is nice. We don't have any of the unusual davits. Let me just double check that. If it is, this makes this a lot bloody easier than it normally is. Yeah, they're all exactly the same. So in this one, there's no variation of davits, so we should all find this a lot easier. We're essentially just assembling the same thing 3 times. So this should be much, much easier than it was before. Yeah, so we have the 59As, which are this one here. Yeah. And we're going to install one of these. Is going to go into... yeah, into there like so. So that one's going to pop in there. And then we use the one that's got the two on the outside. It's going to slot into the back. Now I will glue these. I'm just showing you how that goes together. But we're going to make 3 exactly this. Well, we're going to make 4. No, we're not. Make 5 of these. What's going on here? Have I been given an extra? I think I might have an extra. I'll have a look, but we're going to glue these together. Yeah, it's just me confusing myself. So we're making 5 davits in total. I've made the first 3 over there. With these ones that have the single holes on them, you want mirror image. So like that, we're going to take one of these, and it's just a single of the cranes, as they call them. Goes on this side there. So we're going to pop this one in. So it's going to go like so. Add the glue straw on that one. And then we're going to do the mirror image. Well, this one's going to nip in just here. And then we have it. So we have our 5 davits built. These are the next parts that are going to go on. So we're going to bring up the deck and we're going to start applying these to it. Okay, so this is the section we're working on now. None of this should be here. So I should lift all this off to do this, but we're here. What we're going to do is we're going to take this this vent here and it's going to slot in. Probably should remove this. It would just make life easier, but I don't know. I'm kind of happy where everything is at the moment, so I don't really want to take it all off. Let's grab some tweezers and let's see if we can make life a little easier, because I've just made it really hard for myself for no real reason. I just don't want to take it all off. It's all on. Right. So this is where we're going. There we go. So we'll push this one down. Again, I mean, it's that snug. There's no reason to glue that. But they're asking you to glue it. I'm not gonna. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take one of our funnels here. Now there are 2. There is a difference between them. And which one goes where, so I'll show you which one goes in what spot. So we want let's find the right one. Whoop. Let's find the right one, which is this one. So this one here, there we go. That's how we are. This one is going to slot in just there. Just going to ease that one in. So that's that one nicely in place. And then finally, we're going over here. Let me try and angle you so you can see where we're going. We're going over to this section over here, and this final one here is going to slot just in there. And there we have it. So is that one in place as well. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the davits, and the davits are going to be going just down here. So let's get our davits ready to get into place, and let's make sure they all go in the right way. Okay, so we are going here, and then we are going here, and then we're going here. Right, so let's take our davits and let's start installing those ones. Now these are the three of the larger ones that we built. Now we're going to go this way round. So we'll pop our first one in, hopefully. Nice, snug. Again, you don't need, sorry about that. You don't need glue for this. These are so snug. There's no reason to kick this thing in glue. There just isn't. So our second one there is going to hopefully fit in there like so. It's that one. And then our third one of these, so this one here, is going to fit into this section just here. Again, down that one goes. Sorry, big wrist covering the view there. So there's those three in. And then we have our final two, which are the single crane davits. And they are going to go. Okay, so we have one in this end here. So one is going to go in this way, so that'll be this one. Let's go and slot in just there, like so. So that's that one in. And then we're going to move down, and our final single arm davit is going to fit in just here, like so. And there we are with the first of our davits for this side. So there we are. We're looking good, right? We're looking lovely. Just keeps going. I mean, no matter how much I zoom, just to get it all in. Wow, 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 wow. There we go. So we do need to put the davits on the other side. That's, I don't think that's happening in the next issue. I might be wrong. No, it's not. In the next issue, we're not doing that. So that's going to be happening in 61. I would imagine the final davit's going to be going in there. In the next one, we're going to be building the second class entrance. Let's have a chat. So that's 59 complete. Nice and simple. It's nothing we haven't done before. It's just more davits. But unfortunately, they are part of what needs to be done. So we will have some more davits to go on, not loads. We're nearly coming to the end of that as well. So we are seeing the end of things. We're not going to need more davits after 61, I believe. We'll have no more lifeboats after 61. We've got no more funnels to build. So we are coming to the end of some of these pieces because we have to move into the body of the boat. We'll talk about more of that in the next issue. If you are just sticking around for the build instructions, thank you for stopping by. Please remember to give us a big like. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button and join us for our entire voyage all the way to the end. If you're sticking around for our Titanic talk, we're going to be talking about some of the crazy ideas that came to raise Titanic from the bottom of the seabed to the surface and why people wanted to do this. So everything had pretty much given up from 1912 right through to around about 1950. Interest and plausibility of raising the Titanic just wasn't there. I mean, they'd accepted the technical impossibilities of raising it. They'd accepted the restrictions that they had with the technology they had at the time, and it just wasn't going to happen. Also coupling the fact that the world was somewhat distracted with World War I and World War II for a fairly hefty period of time, that messing around trying to raise a vessel from the bottom of the seabed probably wasn't the best use of materials and manpower at the time. So we skip forward to 1950s, 60s and 70s, where all of a sudden people want to bring the Titanic back up. Why? Well, unfortunately, in I'd say at least 90% of the cases, money. So it was right. This is worth a fortune. This thing sat at the bottom of the ocean is an absolute fortune, and it's that whole thing of the inaccessible fortune. If you're a watcher of Only Fools and Horses, when they find about Freddy the Frog's legacy, that the gold is just out there and it's just sat at the bottom of the ocean. I know where it is. I just can't get it, and it's the same thing. So a lot of these people got dollar signs in their eyes, and they knew full well that sat at the bottom of the ocean was potentially a lot of money, because the Titanic itself was one of the reasons. So the actual ship itself, if we can get it up off the floor, we can salvage it. Under maritime law, we can claim salvage rights of this. And it was going to be towed back to Liverpool and used as a museum. It's going to be towed to New York and used as a museum. They were going to break it down and sell the pieces into key rings at one point, and paperweights. So somebody had the idea of just destroying it and putting it into glass balls as paperweights, and they calculated they could make billions. And you could. By selling chunks of Titanic inside glass ball paperweights. And then the idea that what is on board, what's in the vaults. And there was this rumor that in the purser's vault were millions of dollars worth of diamonds and jewels and gold. Probably is. But how are you going to get to it? Well, you ain't, are you? So unless that thing comes up off the floor, no one can get to it. And there's always been this kind of thrill of the chase of the Titanic, that maybe there's a massive diamond or a ruby or a sapphire or gold or whatever just kind of sat in a room somewhere, but no one knows which room. And at the time, there weren't submersibles to go down there and look around for these things. There still isn't really, without causing massive damage. So the idea being, they thought an intact ship was sat at the bottom of the ocean. All in one picture, you just got to lift her up. That's all we got to do. So how do we do that? So one of the earliest ideas was by a guy that worked for a hosiery company, and nylon balloons. So his idea was, we'll attach nylon balloons to it, massive nylon balloons to it, we'll fill them with gas, and we'll lift the Titanic up. And people invested in this. There were investors from Walsall invested in, thought this is a great idea, this is going to work. However, they were never able to figure out how to fill the balloons with gas. They worked out that at that depth, it would take 10 years to generate enough gas to fill those nylon balloons. So it fell apart, and that was the end of the nylon balloon idea. The next one, which is, this just sounds nuts, but it's true. People invested a lot of time and effort and money into this one. Around about this time, a lot of companies start appearing, and they'll be called something and Titanic Salvage. Or Titanic Heritage PLC and Titanic this and so they'd set these companies up to invest in them. So if they didn't work out, they could just fold on it. But one of them involved, they were going to fill the Titanic with 180,000 tons, 180,000 tons of liquid wax, or to give it another name, Vaseline. So they were going to fill the Titanic with Vaseline. The idea being that Vaseline will float. You fill it with Vaseline, it'll fill up. Why Vaseline? Well, it's not going to cause any damage, is it? If you fill it with Vaseline, you're just going to have a very greasy ship when it comes up. But it wouldn't damage anything. So that was the idea, that it would just fill all the crevices and whatnot that are in there, and then we can lift it up. Without pointing out the fact that there's a bloody great hole in the bow when they thought this was a complete ship. So it's just going to ooze out the sides of that. Any window that exists still, which probably doesn't, it's coming out of there. To think that you can put Vaseline in a ship and it'll just stay there, it'll do what you want it to do, is mental. But that was a genuine, they invested a lot of time, effort, money into research and the plausibility of filling it with Vaseline and floating to the surface. Again, that one didn't work out. So the next one, which is in the 1960s as well, ping pong balls. So the idea was, right, we'll fill it with ping pong balls. Little balls of air, like solid balloons. And then we put hundreds of thousands of millions of ping pong balls into the Titanic. The Titanic will just majestically, slowly rise to the surface. Nope, because if you put a ping pong ball at the bottom of the ocean, you know what's going to happen to it? It's just going to crush. It's not going to be able to take the same pressure. So even though it's a nice idea and you look at it and think, well, that's kind of plausible. No, because once you put the ping pong ball down, the ping pong ball crushes under the pressure, it doesn't work. So they did a variation of this, and one of these was to use benthos glass spheres. Now, benthos glass is massively reinforced glass, and it would take the pressure of the bottom of the depth. So the benthos glass pressured sphere would indeed take the pressure of the ocean, and it would, in theory, work. If you filled them up, it would, in theory, if it was a complete Titanic, in theory, it would have worked. However, to do that, and this is in 1963, I believe, The cost of the benthos glass spheres was going to be $235 million. So it wasn't, that's it. That's the end of that conversation. So it's like, oh yeah, no, we can bring it up. It just cost you $1 billion cajillion. In 1963, $235 million. Today, we'd be looking at, I don't know, 3 or 4 billion would be the equivalent of that, which is insane. Because I don't care what Titanic you think it's worth, it ain't worth that. It never was at that point. You'd maybe break even after 30 or 40 years. So that one died to death. The next kind of wacky idea that came up involved liquid nitrogen. And the idea being of what sank it could save it. So the idea being they cocoon the Titanic in liquid nitrogen and turn it into an iceberg. So it again will float to the surface, and they could tow the iceberg to New York and thaw it out when it got there. These sound nuts, don't they? You hear them go, there's no way. These were genuinely entertained. There were people invested money and time into these things and researched the plausibility of doing this. But they were going to do that. That was the idea. Turn it into an iceberg and we drag it to New York. That naturally isn't going to work because, again, liquid nitrogen is not going to do what you want it to do. How do you do that? How do you go, okay, we just want all this liquid to focus on this spot and not just float off? It's not going to work. So that one died a death. Then, based on the novel and ultimately the diabolical film that we watched, Raise the Titanic, the idea was, what we'd do is we'd dive down there. I love how casually you say this. We'd dive down, will you? We'll dive down to the bottom of the Atlantic and we'll repair the hull. I was like, what? We'll repair the hull. So we'll repair the damage in the hull, because at this point they still think there's a 60-foot tear in the hull. There isn't, but they thought there was a 60-foot tear in the hull. We'll dive down there, we'll patch it up. Is that right? Then we'll fill the Titanic with compressed air and it will float to the surface. Again, no, because the pressure. So in your head, you're going, okay, the compressed air of this is yeah. If theoretically, you could keep a balloon inflated at the bottom of the ocean as long as you kept adding air to it, so you were counteracting what was pushing against it. But you'd need millions, billions of tons of compressed air put into the Titanic. Now, it's nice to think that it'd all just stay together and majestically float to the surface, when what will probably happen is your repair that you've made, in theory, would just burst. It wouldn't work. And you can't. How do you make something that's at the bottom of the ocean airtight? Because that's what would have to happen. There couldn't be any holes or gaps or windows or anything for the compressed air theory to work. So again, it just fell apart. But all of these were done for money. So this is why it didn't happen back then, was because if the cost of doing it outweighed what you could make from it once you'd done it, it wasn't going to happen. Because, if it's going to cost you 100 million to raise it, but we're only going to make 20 million from it, it's not worth it. We lose 80 million. So they just lost interest. So could you raise the Titanic from the bottom of the Atlantic? Yes, definitely. Of course you could. You 100% could. I mean, this is the problem. It is a mathematical equation. We have a very large, heavy, weighty boat sat at the bottom of the ocean, and we need to get it up. You could totally do it. Had you have done it when you had the chance. Now, in the condition the Titanic's in, no. It would, I mean, it's the rusticles that are holding it together at this point. If you tried to move it, it would fall apart. So you could still raise it up, but what you raise up would just disintegrate. It wouldn't be what you know it as today. You just have bits. But definitely, I mean, 20, 30, 40 years after it happened, yes, you probably could have. If it was a complete vessel, yes. With enough money, enough time, enough effort, and enough people, you could definitely raise it from the bottom. But for what purpose? For what reason? And it was only financial at that point, so there was no finance to be gained. But yeah, I mean, you can do anything. If we can put a man on the moon, we can definitely get a ship off the bottom of a seabed. But financially, was it worth it? No. I mean, now we regret it, and I'm sure we do. We're like, I'd love to go and see the wreck of the Titanic if it had been raised and it was in a warehouse somewhere, or and we could go see it. That'd be amazing. But it's not to be. It's not to be. So Titanic will never rise from the depths. She just won't. That's where she will rest forever until eventually she crumbles away. And they're predicting that's going to happen as soon as 2030. It's hard to believe because we look at it now and, with the exception of the rusticles that have built up on the outside of it, it still looks like how it looked like when they found it in 1985. But it doesn't. I mean, this is the thing. It's the actual structure of it is incredibly fragile now. And when it goes, it's just going to go. We're not going to get this, a little bit's broke off there. It's just going to go. Once it goes, it's just going to go. But that doesn't mean it's completely terrible, because as parts of this collapse, research will have access to floors and levels it didn't have before. In theory, I mean, if it all piles up on top of itself, we could end up with a state like the stern is in, which is just a pile of twisted metal. But the theory being that maybe when parts start to break away, we might have access to things like the swimming pool that we've never seen before. But who knows? But a lot of wacky ideas about how to raise the Titanic have been touted over the years, and none of them bore weight. None of them really seemed like they were going to be viable. That's it for this one. Thank you for stopping by. In a world where you can be the thing told, just be nice. In issue 60, we will be making the entrance to the second class. And we will also be discussing a really weird Titanic story, but it's a true one. It involves the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Noah's Ark, and a trained monkey. But it's very key to the discovery of the Titanic, so we'll talk about it then. I will catch you on that one. If you haven't yet, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will catch you very, very soon for issue 60 of Hachette's Build the Titanic. I will see you then.